Obviously, as you can see, the exhumation has taken place. The next step will be turning the casket and remains over to the medical examiner's office here in Kenosha. From there, they will be examined by Dr. Rick Snow, who's a forensic anthropologist. He is with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. He will conduct an anthropological exam of the remains. The remains will then be sent to the University of North Texas for a DNA specimen and further examination, and the DNA collection will take place there. Currently they're working on filling the graves back in, and our job here today is complete.
How did it go?
Can we take one step towards the microphone?
Sure.
How did the process go?
Well, as I stated before, this is something that our department has never done, and it's not something that's done very often. And they had to go through with the maps of the cemetery based on where the headstone was. They had to dig where they thought it would be, but it actually was on the other side. So that's kind of what took so long, is probing the ground and checking for what the remains.
I noticed you said graves. How many were dug up?
There were 2 holes dug.
Okay.
Who authorized, who gave the Sheriff's Department permission to do this exhumation? Essentially, was it a district attorney's office, or what authority gave you guys the go-ahead?
I don't know that answer. That would be something our detective bureau has been dealing with.
And what's the first names of the detectives that were stated in the press release?
Excuse me?
The first names of the detectives that were...
Detective Neil Paulson. And the lieutenant of the detectives is Tom Gilly. And the other detective is Pat Istovan.
Sergeant, what's the hope here? Are you hoping that there is a person of interest? What's the next step? You're obviously hoping this leads to an arrest?
Well, the next step is to wait for the DNA sample to come back from the remains. And so, then after that, we will attempt to compare that DNA with as time goes along based on the investigation.
Is it thought that this DNA is going to match possibly with somebody who's already in the state crime lab database, or?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, can you tell us anything about the nature of the lead that had you guys do this process?
Well, we put our cold cases on our website, and we received a tip from somebody that thought that this case was solved, and we received information from that person that led us to the person of interest.
Sergeant, I spoke to you a couple of days ago, and you said this person of interest you believe is still in this area. Do you believe they're watching the news? Do you believe they think what's going on?
I would assume that they are watching.
Pretty much like what made, in 1989, what made the medical examiner believe that this was a homicide in some ways? Like, given the fact that the website gave some vague details and there really wasn't much detail whatsoever, like what made them believe that?
We're not releasing the cause of death at this time.
Good.
Sergeant, when and where will this exam occur, and what is the timeline for DNA results?
The exam will occur the initial exam will occur at the Kenosha County Medical Examiner's office.
Today?
The DNA samples will be taken at the University of North Texas.
That first exam is being done today?
Correct.
Okay.
Who coordinated the burial in 1989? Like what funeral home? Like
That would be Hazy Funeral Home right here in Twin Lakes.
And then, like, when did they get buried over there? What year? Was it shortly after, or what?
I'm not sure of the exact date of the burial took place.
Do we know the age range estimate on the child when the body was first
You'll have
found?
to excuse me. My microphone died.
Sergeant, have there been any additional tips based on the publicity of this?
None that I'm aware of at this time.
Has there, given the strong emotional appeal in 1989, has there been any other follow-up since then? in regards to authorities just saying, hey, this is what we really need from you guys as far as the community goes. Because from 1989 until when, like, it just seemed like there was nothing that came after 89. Was there anything followed up on?
Well, during the initial investigation of the found body and what was later determined a homicide, there was a thorough investigation completed. Now, that investigation obviously came to a dead end, which now made that a cold case up until the time we received these tips. All of our cold cases are periodically reviewed by our detectives, and this one is one of the few that we've actually gotten to be able to work on again, and we're excited about it.
Do you know when the last time you've actually exhumed a body? Kenosha County?
In Kenosha County, for criminal purposes, we have not exhumed a body as a sheriff's department.
Can I have you go back to the question about how old?
Age. The baby at the time that it was found was determined to be a very newborn.
Like brand newborn?
Brand newborn.
Okay.
Now, what's the name that, when do you know more about this person of interest or when this person of interest will be?
That will depend on the investigation. Then it will be up to the detectives that are investigating the case on what information gets released.
DNA testing can take up to a couple of weeks, though, right?
It could take months. This is one of the only, I believe, maybe not only one of the only, it is the only one, the only laboratory or university that does these type of DNA extractions.
Can you give any more information on the tip that came in?
I don't have any other information besides the tip came in pointing us in a direction.
Do you know when it came in?
About a year ago.
When you say this is the only lab that does these type of DNA extractions, can you tell us a little bit more about what type of DNA extraction we're talking about?
It's a DNA from buried remains. That's the extraction of DNA that they specialize in.
And would you clarify and say it is a two-part process because it's going to Kenosha first and then going to the University of North Texas?
Kenosha's initial exam with Dr. Snow will be what's called an anthropological exam, and I'm not sure exactly what that entails. That'll be the exam where they open the vessel that the remains are in, and after that the remains will be sent to Texas for the further testing.
This might be for a story later on, sorry. But what happens, does the gravestone stay there? Is this going to,
The gravestone will stay there.
will the remains eventually come back, the casket?
Yes.
Does it normally take a year to find a tip credible? And why did it take that long in this case?
I don't know what took so long. It could be the investigation of a 27-year-old homicide. It can take some time to get the ball rolling again.
Do you believe anyone else knows anything about this death or homicide?
I don't know. If they do, we would like them to contact us if somebody has information. They can call the Sheriff's Department or Crime Stoppers.
I spoke to Detective Paulson 2 days ago along with you, and one of the words he used was, this is one tip where I got a little excited. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I mean, this is a really good tip.
It is, and that's why we're going to these steps. Obviously, the exhumation is something we haven't done, and it is a good enough tip to get us to this point.
One thing to clarify is to kind of extend, so just to clarify, there's somebody, the suspect or person of interest is actually indeed, you think that person is in the area still to this very day?
We think that person is regional, yes.
Good.
And living?
Yes.
Is that someone who has a history with law enforcement?
I am not prepared to, I haven't looked into their background. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry you had to stick around so long, and I know it's hot. So,
Sergeant, can we get your name?
Can we say
I'm Sergeant Eric with a C, Kilinkhammer, Kilinkhammer.
thank you, sir?
And
Thank you.
Sergeant, will you